Hello and welcome to this special podcast series. I'm recording this podcast series because I'm gearing up for my Follow Your Highest Excitement challenge. This is the third time that we've done this challenge with this completely new content every single time I do it. So if you've done it with me before, come back and do it again because I'll be teaching new information. Now, the Follow Your Highest Excitement challenge is really for anybody who's looking to take their life to the next level. This podcast is called How to Get the Life You Want. Now, isn't it interesting? None of us are taught how to get the lives we want. We go to school, we get a good education, we're taught, get good grades, go to school, get a good job, become a good tax-paying citizen. Why are we not taught how to get the life we want? Why are we not taught how to make our dreams reality? This just isn't a conversation that is happening out in the world. Now, if you're a parent, I challenge you to have this conversation with your children and make this how you approach life and how you speak to them. Imagine if you had been brought up in an environment where the conversation around the dinner table was, how can you make your dream life a reality? Well, that is my aim, and that is my aim in life, is to show you how to create your dream lives in alignment with your soul. Now, I have a vested interest in this because when we do our Dharma, when we create our dream life in alignment with our soul, we not only serve ourselves because we create amazing lives, we also help the planet. Now, unless you have been living under a rock, the planet is at a critical stage in its development. You know, we are raping and pillaging the resources of this planet. And unless we shift and change how we operate, our children are not going to have an amazing place to live in. So the reason I do this work is not only to help you guys, because I get the most amazing sense of satisfaction from seeing people's lives transform, but also to serve and help the planet. Now, how does that work? Well, when you are living your best life, when you are doing your Dharma, when you are doing the things that you're truly passionate about, you are living at a higher level of consciousness. You are vibrating at a higher level. Now, for those of you that come and do the Follow Your Highest Excitement challenge and come on to do your Dharma, you will see that magic and miracles then happen in your life. Now, the way to explain this is think about the world. The world is constantly moving, it's constantly changing, it's constantly evolving. Think about nature. You know, you plant a seed, that seed gets watered, and that seed will grow into a baby oak tree and then into a large oak tree. But the point is that there's a cycle of evolution. Now, all of us came here to evolve. We are spirits with souls in a body. We have a mind, a body, and a spirit. And of course, we came here to evolve. So when you start to evolve, when you start to push yourself out of your comfort zone, you are in alignment with what I call universal energy force. Because universal energy force wants us to grow and evolve like nature. And when you're in alignment with universal energy force, anything is possible. And that is when synchronicity becomes the norm. And you find that life takes on this beautiful, magical, just enjoy yourself. Now, what will happen if we have the majority of the planet doing this is we'll be able to come up with the solutions that we need to save the world. At the moment, you've only got 13% of the planet who enjoy what they do on a daily basis. Now, can you imagine a machine that only had 13% of the parts working? Imagine how that robot, let's call it a robot, would work if you only had 13% of its parts working. It wouldn't work very well. That's what we have got going on the planet at the moment. 13% of the planet enjoy what they do on a daily basis, meaning 87% of the planet are out of alignment with themselves and out of alignment with Dharma. So my vision is a big one. And it is to shift consciousness on the planet. And the way we do that, if you're listening to this, you're part of that. The way you do that is by creating your heaven on earth. And my mission is to show you how to do that. So how do you create your dream life? Well, the first thing you need to do is get around people that are in this conversation. I am very much in this conversation. I don't class myself as a guru. I just class myself as somebody who's passionate about helping people create their dream lives. And consequently, I have been in this conversation for the last 15 years. And the tools and techniques that I teach in the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge and also in Dharma show you how to work in alignment with universal energy force, how to stay in flow, how to consistently keep pushing your comfort zone so it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And guess what? With it comes your dream life. Comes the life that you have really always wanted. Now, I always say this, but it's so true. Your dreams are meant for you. If you can dream it, you can do it. Now, what you believe is possible will come to fruition. If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't, you can't. So the first thing I want to talk about in this podcast series is why it's so important to be around people who are in this conversation. We are who we surround ourselves with. Now, let's think about this. All of us have grown up in environments, and that's generally what we think is the norm to begin with. And then, of course, we get to teenage years and we want to fit in with all our peers. And if all our peers are drinking and smoking, we want to fit in with them. So that's what we do. But the chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you are somebody that really is interested in personal growth, in spirituality, and interested in creating their dream life. So what I would love to do is invite you to the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge, because what we do in that is I start to teach you a lot of the information that I teach in Dharma. Actually, the things that I will go through are things I've learned the hard way. You may or may not know my story, but I'm going to share it with you here today because I think it gives you a really good idea. My background was I grew up in a household and a family, very sort of middle class. We were 2.4 existence. We went on holiday every year. I was lucky enough. My parents sent me to a private school. My grandmother left us some money and they used that on our education. Interesting. They understood the concept of who you surround yourself with is who you become. My parents knew that if they sent me to a private school, it would get me better opportunities. And consequently, they could have used that money to have a better life, but they wanted to spend it on our education, which I really commend them with. And this 2.4 existence, I had a very close family. But what I didn't know was my family had a bit of a secret. And that secret was around having a history and lineage of depression running down the female side of my family. We had bipolar, suicide, depression, lithium, mental asylums, but none of this was shared within my family environment. Now, of course, as parents, we want to keep our children safe. So my parents didn't share this with me. But what ended up happening was I didn't understand that we had this leaning, I suppose, because the patterns run through families. I didn't understand that. And so I didn't understand when I started to suffer with depression, why I was suffering with it and what it was even. I didn't even know what it was. And of course, I'd never seen anyone talk about voicing about depression. I never understood what it was. So I just thought I was weird. And I couldn't understand why I was disconnected, why I was unhappy, what I couldn't feel. And I just thought that life shouldn't be like that, but I didn't know how to fix and change things. Now, having done so much work on myself, personal development work, I now know how my beliefs and my environment had shaped my depression. Now, this is why it's so important that you hang around with people who have high ideals, high dreams, and you get yourself a community that is going places. Because guess what? That's what will happen to you. Now, what happened in my family was our belief system was that we would always look at what wasn't working. We would always look at what was wrong with ourselves. We were always critical of ourselves. We had very black and white thinking. This was right and this was wrong. And consequently, I continually beat myself up and I had a very negative thought pattern and thought process. And this was something I inherited, something I learned, a learned behavior that I learned from my family. And then on top of that, that wasn't bad enough because I didn't really know how to get out of that environment. What I did was use alcohol to cover it up or to hide my pain. And then that progressed into cocaine. And then, of course, what I had done is I'd built an environment around myself which was full of binge drinking, and everybody around me drank, smoked, took drugs, and that was the norm. Now, you might be listening to this and you might be able to relate to this. And I would just like to say that if you are in the sort of situation where everybody around you smokes weed or takes drugs, and consequently you find yourself doing it even though you don't want to, and you've got to a point where you don't want to do this behavior anymore, but you keep falling off the wagon because everybody around you does it, and that's the norm. I'd just like to say that there is hope and you can change, and you just have to become conscious and aware of what is happening around you and shift and change your environment. If you're in a place like that at the moment, I would definitely encourage you to come and do the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge, because you'll meet new people. And what I discovered is when I met new people who didn't drink and smoke all the time, it was hard at first to shift my life outside of the negative influences that I'd built up around me, because that's all I thought that there was. But slowly but surely, I started to make new friends, and who we surround ourselves with is who we become. So once I did that, I started to hang around with people who were into the law of attraction, into entrepreneurship, into spirituality. And actually, I remember a conversation that I had, which really woke me up. There was a few things that really shifted me out of my slumber. And one of them was my mum's suicide attempt, which I've talked about in previous episodes. But another was a conversation with a friend, and he was sharing with me how, had you ever questioned why the 2% of the world has all the wealth, and how the news and the infrastructure around us keeps us at a negative level of vibration and emotion? Think about the news. Think about what we listen to on a daily basis. The radio, the news, it's all negative, 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 okay? Now, that is intentional, and we're not going to get into that on this podcast, but I want to point it out to you, because when you come and do the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge, we get you to put down the newspapers. We get you to put down anything around you that is negative, so you can keep your vibration high. Now, guess what? When you keep your vibration high, you feel good. You're feeling amazing. You're feeling excited. You're a magnet for your dreams. And that is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be teaching you how to follow your highest excitement and therefore attract what it is you truly want in your life. So how do you get the life you want? You first of all have to find a tribe of people who will support you in getting the life that you want, because it's difficult to do this stuff on our own. I'll be honest, I built Do Your Dharma and I built the community because it's what I wanted, and that wasn't available 10 years ago when I was climbing myself out of the depressive hole that I had built around myself. I could find environments that were positive, but I couldn't find anything that was about creating my dream life. And so I decided to create it. And Do Your Dharma is exactly that. And what we do is we keep ourselves on track, and we keep everybody in a positive vibration. And life goes up and down, but I teach you how to handle that. And mindset is everything. And if you have a strong mindset, and if you have a strong belief system, what you believe, you create. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So are you interested in creating your dream life? How far have you got with it? I'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this podcast, please tag me and let me know that you're listening. I love it when people tag me and share. It's fantastic. Please tag me and let me know that you are listening. And I'd love to know how far you've got with creating your dream life. A lot of people listening to this might think, right, well, I know what I want to do, which is fantastic. And I so commend you for that, because having a vision for your life is so, so important. But you just might need a helping hand along the way. And that's what we do. We support you in that, and we hold your hand, and we lift you up when you're down. So if you haven't already signed up to the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge, please do so. I will make sure the link is in the show notes to this episode. But just a few things to think about before I leave you. So if you're committed, and you have to be committed because personal responsibility is so, so important. You cannot expect your dream life just to fall in your lap. Now, you are going to have to work for this. This is a bit of a caveat that I'm putting out there. If you're somebody who is committed to creating your dream life, you have to take responsibility for your life, okay? The first thing we talk about in the Follow Your Highest Excitement Challenge is, unless you take responsibility for where you are and how you've got there, you'll never change. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame your kids. You can't blame anybody around you for what's happening in your own life. You have to take personal responsibility. But once you take personal responsibility, guess what? You've got your power back. So the first thing that you will need to do if you're committed to essentially creating your dream life is to take responsibility for it. Take responsibility for your life, but then you get your power back. And from this place, we create and move forward. So if you haven't already, come and join the Follow Your Highest Excitement. This is the first in a series of podcasts I will be doing around how to create your dream life. come and say hello, tag me on Instagram, and I will add the link to your Follow Your Highest Excitement challenge in the show notes. See you soon. This podcast was sponsored by my Do Your Dharma course. Create a life so good that you pinch yourself. This 8-week online course demystifies Dharma and shows you how to tune in to why you're really here. Go to www.kittytalks.com/do your Dharma.